Hi guys, today we're making chicken pot pie for dinner from scratch, of course, and I'll be sharing the recipe for both the crust and the pie filling, so go ahead and pause the screen if you need to take a screenshot. I like to have my ingredients measured out ahead of time because there's some steps in this recipe that are kind of time sensitive, so it's just nice to have everything ready. We're going to start off with the pie crust, and I'm using my stand mixer for this. I've got the flour and salt already in the bowl, and now I'm just dumping in the cold butter. It's really important that the butter is cold and cubed, and I shouldn't have my dough hook on here. I should have the paddle hook, or sorry, the paddle attachment, and I'm going to replace that here in a minute. But you want to mix this until it resembles kind of a crumble. This is what it should look like, and don't worry if there's a few big chunks in there. That's perfectly fine. In fact, I prefer that. Now I'm switching out the attachment back to the dough hook, and we're going to be adding our ice water to this bowl, 1 tablespoon or a half a tablespoon at a time. Now I know the recipe states that you're going to be using a certain amount of cold water. You might not need to use all of that, so that's why I say just put it in there a spoonful at a time. And you just want to put enough water in there for this dough to come together and ball up. This is a really important part of the process because we want that butter to stay solid. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a really dense pie crust, and we want this pie crust to be flavorful and flaky. Now we're seeing the dough come together a little more, and it's starting to resemble Play-Doh. That is perfect. Now you want to take that dough and just wrap it in some plastic and stick it in the refrigerator. You're not going to knead this dough at all. You're going to leave this in the coldest part of your refrigerator while we prepare the filling. Also, I like to flatten the dough out in the plastic so that it cools faster in the refrigerator. You'll notice in this recipe that I'm using chicken thighs instead of chicken breast, and to cook up the thigh meat, we're going to sort of fry them in a pan. I don't add any oil to this, I'm just using whatever fat is already in the chicken. If you're going to use chicken breast, you'll want to boil those with the carrots. Once I start to see a little bit of browning on the chicken, I add my carrots in, and then I also add a little bit of salt and pepper. Don't add too much though, just a little bit. And you're going to want to go ahead and cook these until the carrots are almost all the way cooked. You'll know when the carrots are ready because they'll become tender, and the flavor of the carrots will be a little bit more mild than a raw carrot. When that's done cooking, you're going to set it aside. Before you start cooking the filling, mix your chicken broth with your heavy cream and have your flour ready. Next, you're going to take your butter and your onions, and you're going to saute these until the onions are all the way cooked and translucent. Now we're going to add our minced garlic and the rest of our ingredients like the salt and pepper, the peas, and the celery. You're going to want to cook these together until some of the juices have seeped out of the vegetables. Make sure to stir this continuously. Now while stirring, you're going to add your flour, and then you're going to add the heavy cream and chicken broth mixture in, and we're going to do this a third at a time. Again, you want to be stirring and turning your vegetables in the sauce continuously. Once you've got all of the broth and cream mixture in there, you're going to keep stirring and cooking this until it's reduced down to a thick sauce, almost like gravy. You'll know it's ready when it moves slowly to the edge of the pan as you're stirring it around. This is the consistency that you're looking for. Take it off the heat and cover it up with some plastic wrap and set it aside. It's time to preheat your oven at 425 degrees. Now it's time to roll out our dough, and you're going to want to divide this into 2 pieces, and we're going to roll out 2 thin pie crusts about 1/4 of an inch thick. I'm using an 8-inch plate, but it's a deeper plate, so I'm making my crust that's going to go inside the bowl much bigger than the bowl. Now I'm just going to form the dough to my plate. Now we're going to pour the chicken and carrots in first, and then we're going to add the sauce and the rest of the vegetables over top. You're going to have some extra pie crust left over from the scraps. Keep that, and then also keep a little bit of that chicken and carrots and a little bit of the sauce and vegetables, and set all of that aside because we're going to make some mini pies as well. Alright, we've got that jam-packed. Now we're going to add our pie crust to the top. And I like to do this a very specific way because this type of pie sometimes will tend to seep out the edges of the pie crust if they're not sealed up well, but also it's more aesthetically pleasing to me. So I'm going to pinch the edges to combine the top crust to the bottom crust, and then I'm going to go around and I'm going to fold them in. I'm folding the top layer of crust over the bottom layer of crust, and then I'm going to press these against the pie plate to make sure that they're sealed nice and tight. Not only does this give me a nice thick crust, which is our favorite part of a chicken pot pie, but it seals it really nice and tight, and it's really finished looking. Now you want to cut a few slits at the top of your pie so that the steam can escape. I like to add an egg wash to my crust to trap the moisture in, and also because it looks pretty. Now it's time to pop this into your oven, and you're going to cook it until the pie crust is a nice golden brown. Make sure to let this sit for a good 10 to 15 minutes before you serve it. If you're looking for a similar pie plate to the one that I'm using, I'll make sure to post a link below. With my extra crust and filling, I like to make mini pies in these little wide-mouthed jars, and they're great for school lunches or for my husband's lunch. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe, but most of all, I hope you try it out and let us know how it did for you in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. We try to post a video every single day. We'll see you tomorrow.